I picked this unit up, I guess, I don't know, sometime earlier in the year. Maybe it was late last year, I remember. I forget exactly. But anyway, I picked this up off Facebook, paid $50 for it. I've been using it for a while. And then it decided that it wasn't going to work. And it was going to start chewing up DV tapes. This is a DHR1000 DV deck. And, well, it started getting hungry. I'm going to rip it apart and see if I can figure out what's wrong. I've got my old DHR, I think it's a DHR1000. Is that what this thing is? DHR1000. This is my DV deck that the analog output didn't work, but the digital output did. So I've been using it for the past few months for transferring material over to the computer for archiving. Again, I don't need the analog output because everything's done over FireWire. But this one has decided that it doesn't want to play anymore. It doesn't want to, well, it wants to eat tapes. So, let's see why. I have a sacrificial tape from a customer here. Now, before you say, why are you going to wreck a customer's tape? This tape has already been transferred to digital, and the customer has the file, and the customer said, I don't want my tapes back, just throw them out. So that says to me that I can use this tape to see why the hell this thing's eating and see if I can figure out what's going on with it and fix it and get this thing back in operation, at least as a playback machine. And that's all it's being used as, is a playback machine. But something's gone wrong, and we're going to watch and see what it does. So I'm going to load the tape, and we're going to watch and see what it does when it loads. That's not good. Yeah, that's definitely not good. Can you see what's going on? Okay, the tape has been retracted back into the cassette. It did not complete the loading cycle, but at least it didn't eat the tape this time. So what the heck happened? Is there dust in here? Let me just get my air compressor and we'll blow out any dust and see whether there's something that's sticking. Something's not right. So let me just get my air compressor. We'll blow out any dust that might be inside here. Okay, I didn't see too much dust that came out of there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the transport. I want to look under it. I want to clean any mode switches or anything that I can find on the bottom here, and we'll take it from there and see what's going on. It seemed like it was trying to thread, but the tape did not complete the loading cycle. It kind of has that I got a bad mode switch symptom. So that's where I'll start. At least I didn't chew up this tape yet. I'm sure it will get chewed up, but first things first, got to figure out how the mechanism comes out. I think there's probably just a couple screws, and this whole transport probably will lift out. I think. I'm not sure. I've never done one of these before, so I have to kind of start pulling out screws and see what comes apart. Hopefully I'll get it working. It was a nice machine when it lasted. I've only had it, well, I've had it for what, 6 months, I guess, and I only paid $50 for it. It'd be nice if it'll work as a playback machine. I don't have the air on in here today, despite it being a little bit on the warm side. I've got the door open because I just switched my electric rate to time of day billing. So how that works for us here now is we have an optional time of day billing. Okay, that's going to come out. This whole deck should probably lift out of this thing, I think. We have a new optional time of day billing here in BC that you can, so there's 3 rates. There's the regular rate, which is the same price everybody pays, and that's 7 a.m. to 4 in the afternoon, and then again from 9 at night until 11 at night, But between the hours of 4 and 9 at night, it goes up by 5 cents a kilowatt hour. And then from 11 at night to 7 in the morning, it goes down by 5 cents a kilowatt hour. So I figure I can save myself a substantial amount on my electric bill, because things like my electric cars can be set to start charging at 11 o'clock. Instead of charging on the high rate, they will charge when it's 5 cents a kilowatt hour cheaper. And other things that I've got, other major appliances in my house. When I built it, I was prepping for time of day billing at the time, and I had a timer put on my hot water heater. So at about 3:30 in the afternoon, the power goes off to it, and I just have to use what water is in the tank, and then it comes on at 11 o'clock. So I should see a big savings from the time of day billing. But that also means that when I'm working out in the shop, I won't be running the AC on that expensive tier. So if I'm working out here earlier in the day, it's a little bit later today because I had a bunch of crap that I had to deal with working on the car. But had to go get a new battery for my son's car and new wiper blades and stuff. So I was kind of busy earlier in the day, just doing all kinds of work. So I didn't get onto this thing until now. And so that means, yeah, when in the evening or in the afternoon, once the price goes up, I won't be running the AC in here. Same as in the winter. I'll get all my work done earlier in the day before the price goes up. Try to see how low I can get my electric bill. I'm hoping that it's going to save me some money. And again, it's all, when you're on time of day, it's all about when you can schedule your usage. But since everything here is pretty much electric and gas, the range, for example, is gas, so cooking dinner won't really affect the rate all that much because we're cooking with gas. But running things like the HVAC system, well, that definitely will, and the heat pump for heating. So I got everything all programmed so that it will do that work in the off-peak period. And of course, charging up the two cars. They're the biggest. I think those are probably the biggest user, so they will be done at night. This front panel should just pop off of this thing. I think it should just lift right off. Oh, there's plugs and stuff here. There's a motor on here. Looks like that plug's got to be undone. That's for the motorized door, I guess. There's probably another plug over here. Oh, yes. Maybe unplug that one there. Okay. I've never opened one of these up before, so I don't really want to. I don't want to break it, so I'm kind of just being very careful as I open this up. There. Okay, that's the front panel off. See this? It's got a motor that opens that door and closes it. Neat. Now, will this lift up now? Probably not. I probably have to take out a couple more screws and lift off a bracket. These are not super easy to open up like a 3/4 or a beta cam where you just take out like 2 screws and it lifts out, but it's not far behind. Alright, that should lift back and with a little luck lift up, but I'm sure there's connectors that have to get them undone, so let me just inspect and see what I got to undo. Looks like these two here have to come undone. And there's another one on the bottom. I can see down here. I got to take this board out because there's another one under here that needs to be unplugged, and then the mechanism will lift out, it looks like anyway. Looks like it'll lift right out. down here. That should lift out now. And there's a connector here. I think this will lift out now. There, okay. Here's the video board that's going to have bad caps on it. But there's some more also probably on this one. But all right, let's pull this board and get to the bottom of this mechanism, check for mode switches and so forth. I can undo a few of these connectors so that I can get the board out of here. Because I do want to see what's under here. That's that connector. Okay, that board just slips out, just like that. This would be the mechanism control and the drum drive. Our favorite leaky caps on here, of course. 6 full of them. And next, this piece probably will lift off. I can take these out of here. That out like that. Okay. Well, this piece. Ah, excellent. Okay, that's better. Now, what's on the bottom here? I have a sneaking suspicion there's a mode switch. Ah, there's a mode switch right there. And well, we know how these mode switches are. They just get gummed up and create all kinds of havoc. Notice a separate real drive motor just under my hand there on the right side. It's got a separate motor to drive the take-up and supply spools. I don't see anything broken, but I do see that mode switch. As I say, whenever I see a mode switch, I have to question whether it's any good. Usually they're not. I can see the holes are lined up here. They're not quite perfect, but we're close. I think this is a little bit off. I'm going to turn the motor that turns this thing, wherever that is. I guess it's this load motor right here. I mean, they're close to being perfect. We're off by like 1 tooth. I just applied 1 volt to the load motor to get my alignment points exactly where they're supposed to be. You see, the teeth are now exactly pointing at each other. So when I take the switch out, it will go back in the same place. That one's pointed there. That one there's pointed there. I'm going to mark these with a felt marker as well so that I know where they go. Because, you know, there's holes on here. It just makes it easier if I put a little mark there to indicate that that one's lining up with that. And that one's lining up there. And those two, well, you can see the teeth there. And that one's lining up there. So I just like to mark them so that I know where things were when I took it apart. This switch should unplug and it should pop out. I hope. I hope it pops out. I don't know, but we'll find out whether it will just pop down or whether I have to take it apart. I think it probably just pops down, and then I can take it apart and clean it. And that's exactly what it does. The mode switch just pops out. You can see how dirty the contacts are at the back here. So let's open this thing up and see how bad it is. And it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for sure. And that might be why this thing's eating. I'm hoping that that's all that's wrong with it. And yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Let's get the deoxit out and we will clean this up. And then I'll reassemble this and see if it works. So we'll use some deoxit. D100. Get some deoxit around here on these contacts. New completely clean cotton bud so we can see how much crap comes off of these contacts. And there's going to be a fair bit, guaranteed. They are oxidated pretty bad. You think? Maybe that might be the problem. Put some on here to protect the contacts. And we'll do the same for these ones. I'll just throw some on there and we'll use the clean side and see how much dirt comes off this. Not as much as came off the others, but still there was dirt. Okay, I'll throw the switch back together. And we'll spin it around a bit. You also have to clean these contacts at the back here because they're also pretty bad. Actually, these ones are probably worse than the others. They're all gummed up. And we'll put some on the other side of the, where the switch plugs in here. I'll put some on the contacts here as well before I put the switch back in. Okay, time to reinstall the switch. Okay, we line it up so that the alignment marks are pointing right at the timing mark, and pop the switch back in place. And there we go. Timing mark there is lined up, and timing mark there is lined up. I think that's the only mode switch on this machine. So at this point, I can put that bottom bracket on. We'll put this thing back together, and I'll see if it still eats the tape. I don't know whether I'm going to go down the road of trying to get the analog playback working on this. I think at some point I will, but right now, my priority is just to stop it from eating the tape. If I can get it to load without chewing up the tape, then at least I've solved one problem, and I can deal with the other problems at a future time. The circuit board back on. Board just slides into that slot. Locked in place with one clip, or two clips and one screw. Screw it down. And now I can plug these connectors back in. Time to reinstall it in the chassis. Okay, let's see if it'll thread this tape up this time. That part works. Oh! Did I not push it in far enough? I'll try that again. It seemed to kind of stick, didn't it? Okay, it's still got a problem. See, it's still not threading right. So it's more than just the mode switch that's bad on this unit. And now it's gonna. Is it gonna retract the tape, or is it gonna kick the tape out without retracting it? It's retracting the tape. Well, it didn't eat the tape, but it didn't load it either. So it's more than just that mode switch. I was sure that that was going to be it, but obviously there's still other problems on this machine, which I'll have to investigate. There's a switch right down here, if you can see it. Right in front of this, there's a little black switch. Can I get the light on there? There, you see that little black switch? That little switch is what tells it that the cassette is down. I wonder if that little switch itself is dirty. Let's just try putting some cleaner down into that switch if I can. I wonder the best way. I'll just try a shot of neutral. I don't want to spray all over the place, but I do need to get some. Turn the power off first so it doesn't try to do something while I'm spraying. I'm wondering if this little switch down here may be dirty. Can I get in here and spray this thing? I'm going to try to run the mechanism by hand, like load it, fool it into thinking there's a tape in it, and just push the switch down and see if it will try to thread. It might be that the cassette basket's not going in straight too. That might be part of the problem. Again, don't know at this point, but that's what we're trying to figure out. That's why it's not loading. So I'll turn it back on, and I'll trigger it into thinking there's a tape in it by just pushing down this little switch here, and then load that down. Whoops! I guess I may have to block the tape sensor too. Once it's loaded, I'll have to block the light. And then will that make it load? I'm pretty sure that's the button that gets pushed down to load the tape. I know that's the button that gets pushed down to load the tape. There it goes. I just tried to thread. So that part works. Now it's figuring out that the tape is broken because it's not turning. It should unload the tape here momentarily. I'll try loading a real tape again in a minute. See, I hear something clicking on this when it's unloading, so it might be that there's a problem with the cassette loader. See, it starts to load and then it just... It's almost like the tape isn't in straight, but it is all the way loaded. It's retracting the tape back into the shell. See what I mean? It kind of sticks. It kind of hesitates there, so maybe there's something on this front loader that's not quite right. Because when I load it, watch, it just... See, it kind of catches, so maybe the next step is to take this thing apart and just see whether there's something that's not quite right. Oh well, we will investigate the front loader. Got the transport out again. I'm going to remove the front loader if I can figure out how that's held in. I think there's probably only a couple screws that holds that in place. And if I can lift this out, then maybe I can operate it manually. It just seems like there's something sticking, like maybe the tape's not going down straight and it's jamming one of the reels, because when I operate it without a tape in it, it threads up and goes through all the motions. But when there's a tape in it, it doesn't. So that's got me thinking it's got to be something mechanical that's jamming. There's another little switch at the back here. I wonder what that little switch does. There's a little switch back here. I wonder what that does. But the basket just comes off just like that. Okay, now this is driven by gear, which is driven by this gear down here. Drives that. There's another switch back here, you see. I didn't even see that, but there's another switch there. And there's another switch over here. We'll give these switches a shot of cleaner while I've got this thing apart. And a switch here, which is the one that gets activated, I think, by the lever when you push the tape in. But these little type of switches, these give lots of trouble. These little bloody things. So we'll spray some cleaner into these switches while I've got this thing apart. Ah, right in the face. Ah. That gave me back spray right into the face. Also, this mechanism, it also, like the Betacam machines, it can take both sides of tapes. So these spools actually are on a slide for the larger tape. So it could be that they're not quite in the right position. And let's just see when I put the tape on here. Does the tape line up, or? I flip open the lid and drop the tape on here. Tape sits nice and smooth, but I'm just wondering if maybe it's not loading quite correct, and it's causing one of the reels to not turn when it tries to thread. It's monitoring the movement of the spindles, and something's not working. I mean, I don't see anything wrong mechanically in terms of the guides. They all look to be in their proper position. And I can work this thing through by hand, but I think this was bent. This pin was bent, like something jammed it. Still is bent. We'll straighten that up a bit. That's a pin for a larger cassette. So maybe someone jammed a tape into this thing. You guys didn't even see that because my light was hanging that way, but that pin was not straight. So I've just straightened it up. There's the pin over there. That's for the larger cassettes. I already cleaned this switch. Cleaned that switch before. Ah, okay, that's what moves that. See that? So that, is that broken? Oh, you know what? I think this, Is there a piece of plastic broken from that? Looks like there might be a piece of plastic broken right down there. That fits into, there's a lever here that hits it. Yeah, I think that goes into this for when you put the larger cassette in. When you put the larger cassette in, that pulls out like that. And does something else push it back? It almost looks like there's supposed to be like this is supposed to be filled in here, and that fits over top of. You see, that looks like that fits over top of that, so that when that goes in, it pushes it up, and when it comes back, it pulls it back. Looks like that piece might be broken. Okay, well that only affects it though for loading the larger cassettes. I don't have any larger cassettes, right? But that might be problematic. If I were to put a larger cassette in, I'd have to deal with that. It looks like it's broken, but I might be able to fix that. Sure looks like there was a piece of plastic that went across here, so maybe if I can fuse a little bit of plastic onto here just so that it has a place for that to sit down to pull it back, I might be able to do that. It's certainly not quite as elegant as the Betacam SP, which have motors and a cam. This one here is just anyway, let me go back to this. This is the piece that appears to be kind of sticking when it loads. So I just want to run this through its paces. So when the tape goes in, okay, the tape's fully ejected here. The tape goes in. It pushes up, and then the mechanism, you push the tape in, and the mechanism sucks the tape in, but it seems to stick right there. Huh. Push the tape. Okay, that part works. Now it seems to hang up. Well, it's moving smoothly now. I wonder if it was that pin that goes onto that was sticking. Because this is going smooth. Or what was that? It's hanging up on something there. Okay, here's where it's kind of sticking right here. What's it sticking on? That's what I gotta take a look and see. this piece here, maybe. I don't know, I could be mistaken, but that lever looks like it's twisted. I don't know, it's like it's kind of pulled down. I don't think that lever is supposed to be like that. I think that's supposed to be straight. I think that it's got caught on something and bent. That does not look like it's supposed to be at that angle. You know, it's just an oddball angle. I think it's supposed to be more straight. It doesn't come off. I don't think this lever comes off. Does it lift off this? Maybe it does. I don't think so. I don't know if it lifts off here or not. I don't have another one, obviously, to reference it to, but it just doesn't look like it's supposed to be bent at an angle like that. And it looks like it's been hung up on something just from the edge of it here. At this point, I don't know whether that gear or that plastic tab that looked like it was broken, I don't know if that's broken or whether that's how it's supposed to be. I was looking at it closely and it didn't look like it was sheared off. So that might be how that's supposed to be. So I put the basket back in. I straightened out that little lever that seemed to be bent. We'll try it again and see what happens. Tape in place. Ooh. Well, it's not making the clunking noise anymore. Still not threading properly, but it's not making that bang and that clunk and hanging up. Something's still not quite right. But I think I've made some progress. Well, I think I've made a little bit of progress because it's not hanging up like it was before. It's still not completing the load cycle though. When I push the tape in, it's going in nice and smooth. And it's not completing the loading cycle. I don't know whether that mode switch is not being read. That's a possibility. It's not reading the mode switch properly still. I mean, it sure looks like a mode switch problem, right? And it's very carefully removing the tape. You can see the tape being wound back in very slowly. It's spooling in and then it will eject it. I think I got to take this mechanism apart again and maybe just go through it all by hand and just put it through its paces. And see, that all lifts out. That lifts out perfect. I still don't know whether this is quite straight. I mean, it might be this stupid lever here still, but I doubt it. I'm just going to put 1 volt onto the loading motor. I just want to see how smooth this loads. Oops. Don't see anything hanging up there. That looks fine. Mechanism's not sticking in any way. I think I see the problem, and I think it's with this guide right here. This guide is supposed to retract, and it's not. I'm in the loaded position now. Watch me unload the mechanism. This guide is staying out. That, I think, is the problem. That guide should retract just like the other one. When it's fully unloaded, this guide should be in there, and it is controlled from this little lever here. I wonder if there's something broken on this little lever. It rides in a cam. Rides in a cam down in here. It goes through this into the cam gear. Down here. And I think there's probably a little lever that's broken off of it, or a little pin. I bet you that's the problem. That should be in like that. That releases the tension. The tension staying on full. That would explain why it's laboring when it tries to load. That is supposed to be back like that. And I'm pretty sure that that is pulled back from here. So I got to pull this lever out and just take a look and see. Now if I undo this spring here, okay, now I should be able to lift this lever out of here. Without having to take anything else out, hopefully. Hopefully I can just pop this little lever out, but I think this is where the fault is. Probably a little piece of plastic on the bottom of this lever is snapped off. A little tab that rides around in the cam, I bet, is gone. Good luck finding that, too. Okay, this comes out here. Now that moves back and forth here. Is there something broken off this? Ooh, might be a little piece broken off that right there. That rides in this cam. Yep, I think that's the fault. I wonder if the piece is still in here. It might be inside this cam. Look down here. I think there's where our fault is right there. That looks like that's broken. It looks like there was a pin that stuck down through there and it rides into this cam. And maybe the mode switch was dirty and it backed up too much and it snapped it. Just run the mechanism forward a bit and see if there's a piece that's in there. Oh, look at that. Right there. That's the piece that's broken. And now we know what track it runs in. Damn. Well, am I going to be able to fix this or not? I don't think I'm going to be able to find one of these pieces. But that has bust off there. Am I going to be able to fuse that on? That's going to be a tough one. Maybe I can fuse it on and pin it with something. Ah, boy. Well, at least we know what we got to do. That's where our fault is. It took me a while to figure that one out, but there it is. That piece is snapped off. I'm going to try to fuse it back on with my soldering iron here. I think I've got a better solution. I just melted down through the top here so I could get into the actual base, into the pin. And this is now pretty strong. I can't break it, so maybe that will be enough. It doesn't have to do a lot of, it's not like it's doing a lot of work. It's just pushing this guide back and forth. So let's try that. I'm just going to shut off my little cheap soldering iron here and put it where it's not going to burn me, over to the side. And we'll try to put this thing back together and see whether that will actually hold this pin in place. And it goes down into this middle track here. Let me just get this back under. Goes on it like that, and then this fit into here. Yes, that's where it needs to be. This one along over here. That went on like that. And this other piece, how did this go in? This fit onto here, I think. Just run this mechanism back and forth with low power. See whether it does what it's supposed to this time. Okay, we'll put some power here. Oh, look. And unload. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. That is a little bit better than what we were getting before. I'm just going to put this back into the timed position here, and then we'll put the circuit board back on, and that's the timed position. Put the board back on and put this thing back together and see whether I've fixed it. I think I'm a little more confident now than I was before, now that I saw that lever was broken, and I found the broken piece in there, was able to put it back together. So fingers crossed it's going to work. The reason I did that was just so that the mechanism was, there's a couple of little alignment holes that you point them at each other. That brings the mechanism halfway in, so that when you drop the front basket on, you can reset it so that you're not catching anything. So you move the two levers halfway. There's an alignment hole on there. Don't be sawed or not, but I did. That's why I did that. Okay, let me go get the rest of the unit. We'll drop it in and see whether it loads now without jamming. All right, the unit is together. Well, together as well as far as it's going to be together for testing. Put the cassette in. It threads up, and it didn't jam. It's ready to go. There won't be a picture. I'll plug it into my monitor just in case there's a fluke that something is going to work, but it's not. It's only going to output garbage. Guaranteed, it's only going to output garbage. But the DV output should be just fine. We'll do another video on this unit when I get into the video board, because I think I will probably do a service on the video board to see if I can get this thing to output proper video. As I say, right now it's fully functional though, because the DV output's going to work. It did before anyway, so I don't see why it won't. But the DV output should work fine. I was just concerned with it not threading the tape. How do I work this thing? I forget how to work this thing. I got to open this up. There's a button on here to open this up, and the control panel slides out. And if I press play, I have garbage on the screen. There's just garbage. I think there's stuff on this tape. Yeah, there is stuff on this tape. That's what the video does. You can hear the sound. What if I pause it?
There isn't. Is there?
Yeah, this is the problem. It's got no video. But it's got sound. Sound works. The tuner will pass video through. If I go and get a DV type device and plug into FireWire, we'll get a picture. I'll do that, just so we can see a picture coming off this thing. So I just plugged the FireWire into my camera. I got the video out coming from here. Going to use the camera as the D to A converter. And when I press play, okay, someone's got still photos. That's what this guy did. He took a bunch of still photos on he recorded them to tape. Yes, someone actually sent me tapes to transfer over to digital, and all they had was a bunch of still photos on it. But it's playing. I will do another video at some point. Maybe soon, maybe not so soon. We'll change the caps on that board, the bolt below here. I'll test them and change the ones out that I can get to, because it's easy to pull this mechanism out to get to it. And I'll go through that and see if I can get the video back. But what I was, of course, concerned with on this was getting the thing to thread the tape. And that plastic pin had broken. Let's see how it ejects. It's looking good. See, it's looking good. That's how things are supposed to happen on this. And now it's not hanging up either, because there was a piece that was bent on here, so I've straightened that. That's exactly how things are supposed to work on this machine. So I'm once again a happy camper. My DHR1000 is once again capable of transferring people's tapes, because this is what I used this before. DV tapes. I don't like running up hours unnecessarily on my HDV equipment, because I try to reserve that for HDV tapes. So this is the machine that I used for transferring over DV files, and of course I don't need the analog output because I'm just using the FireWire. So that's really all that matters to me, is that the FireWire works. I'd like the analog output to work just because I'd like it to work, but it's not a requirement for what I bought the deck for. I paid $50 for this machine. I think I did okay for 50 bucks. What do you guys think? Anyway, I'm happy now, because I didn't know what happened to this. I say I was just using it, and it broke. And I've been using it to transfer tapes, and I put a tape in to rewind it, and when I went to eject the tape, I went to put the next tape in, and it wouldn't load the tape. So what I think happened on this, and I'm probably dead right, because we saw what that mode switch looked like when it came out. I think the mode switch itself was all gummed up and dirty, and what happened was when it was going through the motions, it didn't stop in the correct position. It wound that cam gear back too far, which snapped off the piece of plastic for the back tension arm, and then that back tension arm was out of place. I didn't even really notice it until I took the basket out and ran. That's when I noticed it was, because it was sitting up here, but I thought maybe it was just supposed to be there and it rested against the back side of the tape for tension. And I was looking at it, I thought, gee, that kind of looks like it's supposed to be down in this unloaded position. And it was loose, but I noticed it when I took the basket out and I ran the mechanism through with the low voltage on the motor, and the guy didn't move. And that's kind of when I figured, okay, this I think is where the problem is, and I was right. So that's the first. I've never worked on one of these machines before, and I'll tell you that this was a learning process for me too, because I've never worked on one of these machines mechanically. When I first got it, I had to do something to the mechanism. I had to clean the switches on it, because it would just load the tape and kick it back out. And I cleaned some of the switches when I first got it. But I didn't do anything else to it. But this is the first one I've ever worked on. I'll point the camera over at a different angle just so you guys can see how this thing threads, because it's kind of cool. And again, with a larger tape, it would, of course, take the larger tapes that are this big. I don't have any. I'd like to get my hands on one just for playing around with it, but it's not really necessary. It's like my Betacam SP machine. I'll get the odd large tape that I can transfer, but most of them are the small tapes. So here's what it looks like. I'll hit the eject button. And I'll reload the tape again. You see, this gear here is being driven by the capstan motor through a gear. That's what loads that. The capstan motor here operates the cassette loading mechanism, and the loading motor over here operates the threading. So both motors. So when you push the tape in, capstan motor comes on to drop the tape down, activates the switch over here, and that activates the loading mechanism. And the reason it was doing what it was doing was with that guide over here on the wrong side of the tape tension was high, and it was causing it to jam, and that's why it would start to load and then it would unload, because the machine was detecting that the tape tension was way too high because this guide was in the wrong position. When the guide is out like this, that's when it applies the back tension brake, and it was all the way over here because the spring was pulling it, all the spring down here was pulling it all the way back. See, now the tension goes off completely. I'm going to go grab one of my tapes, and I'll play that on here. Since I know it's not going to eat it, we'll take a look at it on the TV. This tape says spliced tape. I think this has got a copy of some scenery that I shot with my DV500, GY-DV500. I think that's what this was shot with. Yeah, let's take a look at this footage. There you go. Seeing the odd little dropout there. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. This is the digital copy.
We're at the park now. I'm quite disappointed today that a lot of the stuff down in the lower part of the park has been all plowed in and hasn't been grown yet. So we'll shoot a bit up here, some color up on this particular section. We'll work with this.
Only had one microphone.
See what changed.
GY-DV500 has one mic on it, and you want stereo, you plug a second mic in.
The camera's been changed, the skin detail has been turned off, and the gamma, we'll just check the difference in the color quality. Under bright sun, we've got the iris set to spotlight mode. Just pan across some of these colors here. Gotta move back a bit to get that one. And the colors we should be seeing is a dark red and yellow. That color.
Okay, I think we can end this one now. This is working, and yeah, everything's looking good. I can go search forward, back to play, search backwards. This should have a bunch of special effects on here too. Put it in pause. Okay, let's see what our slow motion looks like. That's got a jog dial on it as well, right up to full speed. Neat thing about this unit was you could do this. You could have the machine sitting up on a shelf, and you could take the remote control, the controller out from it, and even had little feet. You could put this on your desk. So if you had a couple of machines and this is from back in the day, you know, a lot of times people were using this as a spooler to grab footage onto the computer so they could find their shot, get set up on the computer and do their capture. But this machine could actually edit itself. You could control another machine, right? You could use this as the player or the recorder, and you could record You could use another machine or your camera as playback and have this control the camera for playback and record on here, or you could use this as the player to control another deck. And everything controlled from this controller that detaches. And then you can close the front. There's a slot on the front here. If I press the close button, I think it's this one. There's a place here for the cable to come out. So you didn't have to have that open. You could just have this sitting on your desk or sitting in front of it and work away with your controller without having it in the machine. Open it back up to drop the controller back in. And just snapped in like that. Oops, and closes. Anyway, yeah, this one's looking good. I'll say thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. And I say there will be another part for this when I get into that video board. I might even do it next because it's here. Now that the mechanism's working, it gives me some incentive to continue on this one and see if I can get the output working properly. Just because it's nice to have a machine that's working properly. Even though I'll never use the analog out, I'm only going to use the FireWire out for capturing it on the computer, for transfers for clients, so don't need it. But it's nice to have. Anyway. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. I like that. It opens and closes.